You heard it here first. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is a better phone than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Hear me out. And, well, I think that Google finally did the impossible. For the longest time, always, Google has been kind of like a step behind the iPhones, whether it was in build quality, whether it was in the video capabilities, whether it was in the ecosphere, whether it was in software, all sorts of different things, long-term support. Apple has kind of had a lock on a lot of these things for a long time, and there's still things that Apple does better, like iMessage is better, and FaceTime is better. You've got Face ID and the dynamic island. That's something that's better than what you get on the Pixel phone. But you also get the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner on here now, and there's no fingerprint scanner on the iPhone. So I think that's a leg up. But yeah, for the longest time, whether it was true, whether it was in the court of popular opinion, and I think mostly true, when you look at the Pixel 6, the Pixel 7, the Pixel 8, I think that the iPhone has clearly been like a step ahead. But also, when you take a look at the iPhone, it's quite stagnant. I mean, that's something I think most people can agree on. Basically, it's the same phone year after year after year. The cameras are the same as last year, which are basically the same as the year before that. They haven't really made a lot of changes there other than the ultra-wide improvement. But yeah, the iPhone 16 Pro Max looks and operates and feels and just like the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is not necessarily a good thing, but they've done a lot of good things, but they've also done some bad things, right? So we've got the new camera action button over here, which is, I think, universally looked at as stupid now and really kind of quite useless. And it's got the A18 Bionic. And the biggest leg to stand on that people are going to point to, like when you take a look at the iPhone and you take a look at the Pixel, the biggest thing people are going to say is, oh, well, it's got a tensor in it, or it's an Exynos, it's made by Samsung. The benchmarks on the iPhone are clearly way better. Well, the benchmarks are better, and that's not something you can argue, but where the benchmarks actually meet with reality, there's not really that much of a gulf. Why? Because when you take a look at the performance, when you take a look at both of these phones, using them on a day-to-day basis, the experience, the smoothness, the polishing, the refinement of the experience, and the operating system, quite frankly, Android versus iOS, I think that in my book it's a clear winner going to Google. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, iOS 18, has had quite a few bugs in it. iOS 17 was pretty buggy. iOS 18, I had hope for it. There's still a lot of bugs. I made a video where I talk about the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It's the first time ever that I'm taking it back to the store and getting another one. I have so many problems with it. The screen and the touching on the screen becomes unresponsive. It won't work. It gets hot. The camera sometimes freezes. It ruined a huge opportunity when I was at the Mike Tyson fight. I was trying to shoot video. Camera locked up on me. Wouldn't let me do anything. The screen froze. And then I closed it. I was able to open it back up. And then you still couldn't. The screen was just black. So I would close the camera, open it back up. Screen still black. Had to turn the phone off, turn it back on. And I missed minutes of like an experience I really wanted to capture. And yeah, there's been other issues with it as well. But yeah, I think the Pixel has finally not only caught up, and I think most people will say that it caught up. Like from a hardware perspective, when you look at the build quality in both of these phones, a lot of people criticize the Pixel because they say they look very identical, and they do in some ways. They've got the rounded edges, flat sides, flat screen, but clearly the cameras are completely different. And you see the big, huge emphasis on the camera module over here. I think the cameras are better, and the people over at DxOMark will back me up on that because the Pixel is rated number 1 in the US and the iPhone is right behind it. So you have a objective standard of people who test these cameras out for a living say that the Pixel is better. That's fine. I still think that video overall is better with the iPhone. Of course, they have their new slow-mo feature. Yes, you can do 120 frames per second. You can do slow-mo video, cinematic slow-mo, if you care about that. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. You can do slow-mo with both. And they do have the upgraded studio microphones. And I will say the studio microphones are really impressive on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But I think that the speakers and the microphones may be just as good with the Pixel. I recorded a video, and it's nice because they have like a noise cancellation feature when you're recording that shuts out and filters out the noise. Man, I recorded a couple selfie videos, and they sound great. I think they sound better in an outside or indoor environment than the iPhone does, especially in certain situations. Of course, you can't really do the studio editing with it after the fact built straight into the phone, but it sounds pretty darn good. There's been a lot of improvements there. Google has taken video seriously, especially the last couple of years, and the video is definitely majorly improved. And I think that the selfie video and I think the selfie camera on the Pixel is better than the iPhone, and I stand by that. I think the pictures are definitely better. There is still, I think, a slight improvement or a slight difference between the iPhone. I think the portrait shots might still be a little bit better, but once Google gets that dialed in, especially with kind of some of the fringing you get every once in a while around the edges, once we clear that up, I think the Pixel might be better in that department as well. One major thing, and one thing that really separates these two, and it's interesting because this is a different story than when you talk about Samsung. Samsung gets Android from Google, and then they make One UI, which is like their skin version of the experience, and it looks and it feels different, make their own apps. You get the stock Android experience over here, and you get iOS 18 over here. And iOS 18 and the Pixel and the iPhone 16 Pro Max are very much a beta product. So we know they're 2-3 years late to the game when it comes to AI. And the Pixel definitely is way better at AI. They've licensed it out to Samsung. They've licensed it to other people. They're leading the way with AI, and the Tensor chip is built from the ground up to take advantage of all their computational stuff, all their machine language, all that great stuff, all their things they do. All the things that Google does with all the AI and the ability to use their servers and all that stuff definitely is leading the pack in that regard. And the AI stuff that you can get on the Pixel, there's some impressive stuff. I mean, shoot, it took us, like 4 years after the Pixel to finally get a native magic eraser feature with the iPhone, which definitely is not as good. So there's a lot of stuff that Apple needs to do, and we're still waiting, right? So Apple Intelligence got announced at WWDC earlier this summer, and then comes out, we get the iPhone and no Apple Intelligence. You got to wait at least a month. We had to wait a month to start getting the first version, iOS 18.1. A couple things they added, really nothing groundbreaking. Then we got to wait for the next round in December, and then we're still not going to get Siri 2.0 and the full deployment, or what's believed to be the full deployment of Apple Intelligence, until the spring. So it's definitely not a complete phone. And there's some people like, oh, you can't even, iPhone, like you can't even evaluate this fully until it's done. Like, well, if you can't do that, that means the phone's basically a beta product. And yeah, the Pixel I think does better with heat. I think it does better with battery management and power. So at first I thought the iPhone 16 Pro Max was pretty good on battery. And over the last month, my battery life has gotten way worse. I was listening, so I just drove down the street because I'm fat, right? And I was hungry. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I went and got a donut and a kolache. And of course, I got 2 kolaches for my dogs. I gave them some too. But just watching YouTube. Well, not watching. I was listening to YouTube. I had my earbud in, and I drove maybe 5 minutes, and my iPhone was already getting really hot. That's ridiculous. Why is the iPhone getting hot from watching a YouTube video in a 60-degree car? It's just ridiculous. So Apple Intelligence, way behind Google. The selfie camera, I think, is behind Google. When you come to the software experience, Android versus iOS, I think it's behind the power curve. Now, there is an area where Apple excels in this department, and that's with the ecosphere. We have the word ecosphere as it applies to phones basically because of Apple. When you take a look at the symbiotic relationship between the products and the software and the user and how everything works together in tandem with the iPad, the iPhone, the MacBook, nothing even really comes close to touching that yet. Now, of course, Google has made some new things. Of course, we got the Google Buds Pro 2, which are probably better than the AirPods Pro 2. I would bet money on that. I haven't tested them out yet. I haven't bought them. But the AirPods Pro, they're good. The Google Buds Pro, I think they were better. So probably these will be better. But I can't say that definitively. But the whole point of that is not which one is better. It's that it exists, right? So we have AirPods. We've got Google Buds Pro. Then we've got the tablets. So the Google Pixel tablet definitely is way worse than the iPad, and it might even be getting discontinued. And then you have the iPads, of course, those are fantastic, industry leading. And then you have the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch Ultra, definitely industry leading. But the Google Pixel Watch has made up a lot of ground, and especially when you take a look at the Pixel Watch 3 and the 3 XL, it's really made a lot of great strides. Works great with the Pixel. So they're catching up in very meaningful ways. And now with RCS support, you can still get that great communication with your Apple friends. You're not behind that veiled wall anymore with iMessage. It's not like, you don't have iMessage, you can't be part of group chats, you can't add people to group chats, you can't send full-size pictures, you can't send video stuff. So now Oh, read receipts. Now that we have the Pixel and RCS chat support, that's the new standard. Yeah, it works pretty darn seamlessly. It's still not exactly as good, but it's very, very good. So Google is caught up in so many meaningful ways. And so I think it's safe. Almost anybody could say they're on the same level now. I think the same level of premiumness, the same level of expectation of performance, flagship, top of the line cameras, all those great things you would expect. 7 years of support. That was an area for years that the Google lagged behind. 3 years of operating system updates, 5 years security patches, whereas Apple was supporting their phones like 6, 7 years. And then we got last year the Google Pixel phone, 7 years, 7 years operating system update, 7 years of security patches. So Google has been making these huge strides over the last couple of years, redesigning everything, changing things, Material You, and we got Gemini. Gemini beats the pants off of Siri. Siri is dumb. In the literal definition, it is terrible. It is almost useless in so many different ways. I know that Google Assistant has kind of fallen behind in some areas because there's a major emphasis on Gemini, but those will merge eventually, and then Gemini will be as handy as the Google Assistant ever was, also with the great AI advancements and things like that. So yeah, Google's beating the pants off of them in the AI department when 120 hertz, right? So we got the screens. You've got a 6.9-inch screen on the iPhone, 6.8-inch screen on the Pixel, and the Pixel phone 1,000 nits brighter. So the highest manual brightness you can get on the iPhone is 1,000 nits, 2,000 nits max peak brightness, whereas the manual brightness you can turn up to 2,000 nits, and peak brightness is 3,000 nits. And they're also HDR support, all that great stuff. I think the Pixel screen looks better, but the 120 hertz I think is much better. The ProMotion display on the iPhone has not been very good, and we've even kind of seen some issues with it. I've talked about it. It was displayed when the phones first came out because you get some jankiness and some choppiness when you're scrolling. The iPhone 16 Pro Max ProMotion is not nearly as smooth, not nearly as sophisticated. I think the Pixel is better in that regard as well. So like when you use the phone, you look at the screen, you got a better quality screen, you get better 120 hertz refresh rate, you get a better selfie camera, you get better primary shooter. You don't have the terrible alien light lens flare, which, good gosh, I'm so sick of with the iPhone. They won't fix it. And most other things are on par. Like you got Gorilla Glass Victus 2 with the Pixel, you got the Ceramic Shield like 2.0 with the iPhone. Both of them are still prone to surface abrasions, but they're both pretty good for anti-shatter. They're shatter resistant, all the good stuff. IP68 on both of them. Both have wireless charging. Both have reverse wireless charging. Both have decent charging, about 30-40 watts kind of. And yeah, I think it's finally time to say Google has caught up, and I think in many ways passed them. And I think the haptics blow it out of the water for sure. Like the haptics on the Pixel are amazing. So, and also if you're worried about Apple Pay, you got the Google Wallet. The Google Wallet works greater, and they've just done so many good things with the Pixel where it's like over the last couple of years we've been building and building and building, and finally, bam, Tensor 4, fantastic chipset, and everything around it. It's been so smooth. The animations are smooth. They sped things up. The user interface is flawless in my opinion. It works great. I think it's smoother and better than even One UI. I think Google's version of their stock Android and the way they've implemented everything, I think is the best in the market in the US right now. And Apple has just gotten really lazy. They've gotten lazy with their design, lazy with their cameras, lazy with their optimization. Like for the longest time, it was, oh, it just works. And I've had so many instances of it just not working. And I've enumerated those in a video I made when it comes to the refresh rate, when it comes to the battery, when it comes to the heat, when it comes to the freezing, when it comes to the screen unresponsiveness, when it comes to AirDrop. AirDrop still fails me. So there's just so many areas where I feel like Apple got stagnant and they're just not keeping up with it, and they keep adding more stuff on top of it, and slowly they're like breaking things and causing issues, whereas Android 15 and even Android 14 was very, very stable, no issues, good job, and they just keep adding more and more stuff. And of course, the Pixels actually go on sale. Like the Pixel 9 Pro is normally $999. It was on sale for $799. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is $1099. It was on sale for $849. And when it comes to the iPhone, you got to go pay full price. And you can trade something in if you want, but yeah, they don't drop the price on these things. So I think the pricing has been more competitive. I think the build quality, actually, I like the build quality better, and they avoided the titanium. Like the titanium with the iPhone has caused so many problems. It retains heat, and it really adds a lot to the heating issues. I've even heard rumors they might be taking it out in the next phone. to try and make it even lighter. And heaven forbid they make this iPhone Slim, which, if the rumors on that are true, it's like slimmer. It has one camera. There's stuff that they took out of it. Really not all that impressed with it. And also, you get a bigger battery. You get a 5,000 milliamp battery with the Pixel. It's like 4685 or something like that with the iPhone. But moral of the story is, my Pixel experience has been better, smoother, more reliable, more impressive, and they've just been making a lot of big changes that really stand out and have been meeting or exceeding the standards that the iPhone has had out there. So, yeah, the iPhone this year, I would put it as like third or fourth best phone in the US. I think the S24 Ultra is better. I think the Pixel is better. Heck, the OnePlus might even be better. It's certainly a better value, several $100s cheaper, and brings so much to the table. If they could ever get to where they offer monthly security patches and they can bump it up to at least 5-6 years of support, I think that would put a lot more confidence in them, and people would be more apt to go pick one up. The biggest thing Apple has going for them is it's basically embedded in the pockets and the trenches of American consumers. And we've seen a slight slide back in the market share, maybe like 5%, 5 to 10% over the last year, depending on what outlet you look at. And then the Pixel, they've almost tripled their market share. They were like 4 or 5%, and all the things I've seen recently are pointing to the Pixel 9 being so successful. It went to like 12 point something percent, which isn't crazy. Which is crazy. I mean, for a single year, even single quarter jump. So I think the confidence is there. I think people are looking for alternatives. I think people are tired of the iPhone, and they use it because they feel like they're stuck. They've been using it forever. Their family uses it. And the Google Pixel RCS support and the stuff they're bringing online and the things they've been successful with, and overall, I think making it a better phone, I think it offers a great alternative. And I've always said the Pixel is like the logical choice for people leaving Apple. Apple makes their own chip. They make their own software. Pixel makes their own chip. Well, in conjunction with Samsung, it's moving to TSMC, which is the same people that make the chips for Apple. But they designed it so that they designed the specs so Samsung can make it. But basically, they've got their own hardware, their own software, and it's interesting seeing them because they're the only two that do that. Like Apple makes their own stuff, Google does their own stuff. Everybody else at Android gets it secondhand from Google. So Google is the author of Android and the Android experience, and they're firing on all cylinders right now. And really, I do believe. I mean, you can disagree with me. You can be like, no, the iPhone's better. Okay, well, I think the Pixel's better. This is the first time I'll say this. I think that the phones previously have been very good, but they were not as complete. They were not supported as long. They were like little things here and there that were not completely fine-tuned. And now I find the iPhone is in that camp. I find the iPhone is less optimized. I find it's more frustrating, more bugs, more jankiness, more hardware issues. And I haven't experienced that over here. But even if I didn't, even if they were on par with having equity or equality in the way they perform, at least from a software perspective, I still think that the Pixel 9 Pro XL is better. And especially, like I said, you look at AI, and if you care about AI, Google is kicking the pants off of Apple. So anyway, that's my discussion on why I believe that the Pixel 9 Pro XL is a better phone than the iPhone. And again, like I said, the only thing that people really are like, oh, well, the A18 is more powerful. Okay, what are you doing with it? Getting your choppy refresh rate while you scroll through your social media? So, yes, the benchmarks are there, but the benchmarks don't matter. I mean, when you've got a 3.15 gigahertz 8-core processor over here, fine-tuned, built from the ground up to work for Android and to work for Google's phone, the experience is seamless. And you can even play like top-tier gaming and stuff like that. Yes, you can get Resident Evil 4 Remake and Resident Evil Village on the iPhone, but by and large, there's probably like 8 people who care about that. It's not that big of a deal. So, yes, the iPhone will beat it in top-end gaming by a hair, mostly because of optimization. But in everything else, it's either competitive or I think the Pixel's better. And even my Pixels had better battery life than the iPhone. I was more impressed with the iPhone at first, but now I'm getting significantly less battery life, and the Pixel is just sailing along, doing its thing. And no, it's not like 9-10 hours, but I can comfortably get about 7 hours with the Pixel, and I'm probably getting about 5.5-6 hours with the iPhone. So anyway, so that's all I got. Going to wrap this one up, but I wanted to say that I've been wanting to talk about this and kind of have some discussion on it. I know there's gonna be a lot of angry Apple people. No, you're crazy. You're a Google Pixel fanboy, which I am not by any stretch of the imagination. But when you take a look at it, yeah, there's going to be the Apple fans who go, no, you're lying, you're stupid, you're making this up, stop the cap, blah, 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 whatever you Gen Z people say. I don't know. I'm 40. I don't say that stuff. But there will also be people who switch from Apple to the Pixel. And I've got a lot of those comments, and they're like, yeah, I'm glad I finally left. It's a better phone. And the Pixel, of course, fixed all the problems that I had. They fixed the battery issues, they fixed the heat issues, they fixed the signal issues, new modem. So, yeah, firing on all cylinders. And come back and look at the comments. Come back and look at the comments after like a day or two, and not just like the blatant fanboyism from the Apple people who've never picked up a Pixel, much less the latest one. But you'll find a lot of comments where people are like, oh, I left my iPhone and went to the Pixel. It's fantastic. I'm glad I did it. Or people who have had Pixel phones who are like, yeah, this is the best Pixel phone that they've ever made, and it certainly is. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints, any of that stuff, please go to the comment section. We could talk about it. I'm sure we can fight about it with all the Apple versus Google stuff. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys next time.